Welcome, folks, to episode 196 of Hashtag AskGSM here today. I'm Graham GSM Matthews for August 30th, 2017. We're quickly approaching episode 200. I should have an official announcement up regarding episode 200 on hopefully on Friday or Saturday. Like I've said before, maybe doing some sort of live show with call-ins from past guests, from RJ to John to maybe Tom and Jason. That'd be pretty cool. Maybe not on that day. Maybe we pre-record it and we do it. We put it up all at once on that day. I'm not exactly sure. But it should be up on that Wednesday, though. 3 or 4 weeks, I guess, from now. I guess it would be the 27th, I want to say, that Wednesday. So be on the lookout for that. That episode is then. This is now episode 196. First and foremost, my apologies. The last 2 episodes have not been great due to health issues. I would say I'm about like 90-95% recovered. The first episode, I had no voice. The second episode, I was coughing like crazy and was super fucking tired. I recorded it at like 1 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday to the point where I had to edit parts out because I was literally rambling about stuff that I was like imagining in my head. Like I was going crazy, like literally going crazy because I was sick and tired. So I'm recording this at almost a full bill of health on a Wednesday afternoon, not night. So we're going to be putting the episode up on time this week. And all this stuff this week should be up on time. I know the last 2 weeks have been fucking crazy with stuff going up like later and earlier and stuff like that. So as you can tell, I'm still kind of coughing a little bit, but it shouldn't be a major issue for today's show, which is a great thing. So I appreciate everyone saying, best of luck, get better, blah, blah, blah. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. That being said, if you want to send in a question, tweet me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Graham.gsm.Matthews. Leave a comment on the post I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. Last but not least, leave a comment on this very video in the comment section down below. I'll include your question in next week's edition. Let's get started here. From Manuel A. from YouTube, his question was, or he's got a few questions here pertaining to the same thing. I've listened to a few episodes of the Something to Wrestle with Bruce Pritchard podcast, and it's got some interesting discussions. They had an episode on CM Punk's first 2 years in WWE's main roster, and during the end, when Pritchard explains why they took the World Heavyweight Championship off Punk through kayfabe injury at Unforgiven 2008, he said the purpose was to get Randy Orton over as a heel by injuring Punk. I actually didn't know that. When Conrad, the podcast host, asks about Punk's claims that he was told that he was losing the world title because Jericho and Shawn Michaels needed it for their feud, quote-unquote, Pritchard says that it's a common case of agents telling the wrestlers what they want to hear. So a few questions for you. One, do you think CM Punk did prefer hearing that he was losing the World Heavyweight Championship for the Shawn Michaels-Chris Jericho feud than hearing, we want to get Randy Orton over? Question 2, do you think Punk should have lost the title through kayfabe injury instead of a match, like the championship scramble at Unforgiven 2008? And 3, do you think either reason justifies taking the World Heavyweight Championship off Punk? Specifically, did Shawn Michaels and Chris Jericho need the title to further their feud? Did Orton need the heat for injuring Punk? And was it better for Punk to lose the title that night, or should the title have stayed with him over Jericho? This is a great discussion. I have not checked out the podcast yet. I've heard great things about both the Pritchard podcast and the Eric Bischoff podcast. So maybe when I get some more time, I can listen to it. But obviously, being a big CM Punk fan, this type of stuff fascinates me, as I'm sure it does for you as well, Emmanuel, being being there the night that CM Punk won the championship, not the World Heavyweight title, but the WWE title, Money in the Bank 2011. But yeah, this was like around the time I started watching, so this type of stuff like fascinates me. It's hard to believe it's been almost 9 years, almost exactly, but anyway, to answer your questions, the first one being, did Punk prefer hearing that he was losing the title for the feud between Jericho and Michaels than hearing that WWE wanted to get Orton over? I feel like it was a combination of both getting Orton over as a heel and putting the title on Jericho, because he was the best thing going in the company at that point, and he had been since he went heel that June. So I think what they wanted, the wrestlers to hear with Punk, them telling Punk, we need to get the belt on Jericho because they need the belt right now. I don't know if they needed the belt, but it was pretty, let's face it, Punk is great, but at that point in time, he was a dead champion. They had already booked the guy like a fucking loser, like an underdog, but really he was losing a lot of matches. To Jericho, to JBL, to guys like Kane and random, randos like that on random episodes of Raw. So the fact that they put the belt on Jericho over Punk, in retrospect, made sense, because Jericho had been perfectly booked. He was an amazing fucking heel. But it's not like they did Punk and Jericho coming out of the title win for Jericho. They went back to Jericho and Michaels, which led to an amazing ladder match in No Mercy '08, but Punk went on to do nothing. So that's really what bothered me more than anything, was the way they did that, because we want to get Randy Orton over. I mean, the guy was already a hated heel. The guy had his best year ever in 07, 2008, right before he got hurt. And it's so funny they wanted to get Orton over as a heel, but at the time he kicked Punk in the head, which I don't know if you mentioned here, I don't think you did, Orton wasn't even active. I mean, he was on Raw every single week trying to do that angle with Team Priceless, with Cody Rhodes and Teddy DiBiase to form the Legacy, what would eventually become the Legacy. But he was hurt. He wouldn't return to the ring for another 2 months. So it's funny that you say they wanted to get Orton over as a top heel, or they said that, whatever, when Orton wasn't even on the show wrestling. And they never did a Punk-Orton feud. They had like a match or two on Raw, that November. But beyond that, they never did a Punk-Orton feud for another 2.5 fucking years until 2011. At WrestleMania 27. So, I don't really buy that excuse. It's a really lame excuse if it is true. But yeah, I mean, I don't think Punk preferred hearing that he was losing the title for Jericho and Shawn Michaels, that feud, than hearing we want to get Orton over, because Punk's a very straightforward, blunt, honest person. Like, he wants to hear the truth. He doesn't want to be bullshitted to right to his face, which is exactly what they did if they told him that, as opposed to getting Orton over. So, no, I don't think Punk preferred hearing that. For your second question, do you think Punk should have lost the title through the kayfabe injury? No, he should have dropped it in the match itself. It's not like they were protecting Punk. Because, again, they never did anything with a guy coming out of the world title win. What did they do? Put him with Kofi Kingston? Which I enjoyed. They were a great tag team for as long as they lasted. But Punk was never meant to be a main eventer to begin with when he first entered the company, let alone when he won the World Championship. Really in kind of a fluke win that June. And they never really had any plans beyond that title win to keep him in the main event scene. So why even bother protecting the guy? He lost like a fucking loser. So that was kind of dumb. So no, I did not like the fact he lost the title in the way that he did, as opposed to just dropping it in the match. Was it really that big of a deal? And I'm trying to think, they put Jericho in the match. That's what led to him winning the championship. And his last question, do you think either reason justifies taking the world title off Punk? So for the third question, I am going to say they needed to take the belt off Punk. Because by that point, he had held the championship for a little over 2 months, 2.5 months. But it just wasn't clicking. I mean, people liked Punk, but his title reign was not believable. And it's not his fault. It's because they booked him like a fucking loser. Like a lovable loser as world champion, which rarely ever works. I mean, look at Rey Mysterio from 2 years prior to that. I mean, they had the guy lose every single week. Because they had never had any plans. Ever heard that report before? I'm sure you have, Emmanuel, but other people. The whole thing that they put the belt on Rey Mysterio just to satisfy the fans, but beyond that, we want to bury the guy, make the guy look weak. So they made him look weak in every single one of his matches until he dropped the championship that summer, and he never won another world title for another 3 or 4 years. So again, I think they needed to take the belt off Punk, because by that point, I don't know if he was damaged goods, but there really wasn't much more they could do with him to salvage his title reign, so I think putting the belt on Jericho was the right thing to do. The way they did it, though, was not what I should have done. Was not what I would have done. I would have had Punk lose to Jericho straight up, or at least lose to him in the scramble match, which he wouldn't even had to been pinned in anyway. The scramble match, which has been since retired for the past 8-9 years, but people would get pinned at random, and if that person got a pinfall victory, they were the champion. They did not need to pin the champion. So not at any point did Punk need to get pinned. So the fact they had him drop the championship before the match even started was dumb. And I know why they did it, to get Orton over, as you said. But again, Orton wasn't even a factor at that point for another 2 or 3 months. Next question from Captain Sunshine, also from YouTube. Is John Cena retiring soon? The number of big-time dream matches he can do is starting to run thin. He's been rushed into matches with Shinsuke Nakamura and now Roman Reigns, and I can't see him beating Roman Reigns in No Mercy. I mean, I just can't see Vince greenlighting a segment where Reigns is called a Cena bootleg and then getting pinned by the man himself. You know what? I was asking the same question, no joke. Why are they hot-shotting all these John Cena dream matches? The one knock I've had against Cena, his mic work has been great. I thought Monday was a great example, which someone else asked about, which I'll get to shortly. His in-ring work has been top-notch. I mean, the guy may not be a technical wrestler, but he's a great performer, and he's had a lot of amazing matches over the course of his career. But the one knock against this character is that they're running out of fresh feuds for the guy, which, when you don't turn someone heel, and you're on top for as long as he has been, you're going to run through everyone eventually. before running the risk of repeating rivalries like they did with Rusev, which was a fucking train wreck and a waste of time. Excuse me. But, yeah, so they had many matches left in with John Cena, with Roman Reigns, with Baron Corbin, and with Shinsuke Nakamura. They did them all in the matter of a month. Like, why would you rush feuds like that? Why would you rush rivalries? It doesn't make any sense. Like, I know he's not a full-timer. Again, he's probably leaving soon to go film the Transformers movie, or another animated movie, or another project, whatever. But he's not, like, going to be done completely. I assume he's going to be at WrestleMania. So what do you do with him at WrestleMania? And I don't want to hear, they're saving Samoa Joe and John Cena for WrestleMania. No, they're not. They were going to do the match on fucking Raw this week before Joe got hurt. So the fact that Joe got hurt is a blessing in disguise. Because otherwise they're going to waste the first ever John Cena Samoa Joe match on Raw, which is such a fucking waste. What a waste. Like, I loved the build-up and how they handled John Cena and AJ Styles. Thank God they didn't waste that match on TV before the pay-per-view. The way they booked that feud was so perfect. They had 3 matches, and all of them happened on pay-per-view. Money in the Bank, SummerSlam, Royal Rumble. All excellent matches. They never did a rematch. They didn't run it into the ground like they did with Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. They had 3 very special matches. They all meant something. Why is Cena and Joe any different? Like, this has been a dream feud for many people for a very, very, very long time. So why would you rush into doing it on Raw? And now the Roman Reigns match is another issue, too. I talked about this last week in Wrestle Rant Radio. And the excerpt's here up on the channel if you want to check it out. Cena and Roman Reigns is a WrestleMania-worthy match. And I thought the segment they had on Monday was great. It got people buzzing, excited for their upcoming encounter. Why would you waste that in No Mercy? Like, even Brock and Braun is a WrestleMania match. Like, literally, WrestleMania is coming like 6-7 months early with No Mercy later this month or next month, whatever, in September. Why would you do that? Like, what do you do with Cena now? If Cena's not going to be facing Roman Reigns, unless they have Joe interfere and it's like a no contest, which I doubt they would do, then what do you do with Cena at WrestleMania? That to me tells me they're doing Roman and Lesnar 2 at WrestleMania, which, again, is fucking stupid. You just had Roman get pinned clean by Lesnar at SummerSlam. Why would anyone want to see that match again? I know they worked well together at WrestleMania 31, but it's like, dude, he just got pinned clean by Lesnar at SummerSlam. Why would you do the match again? I could see almost, I don't want to play double standards because I do want to see Joe and Lesnar again. But it's like Roman hasn't won a match since fucking WrestleMania. Why would he be a believable threat to Brock Lesnar at this point? Anyway, with John Cena, no, I don't get it. I think Cena and Roman should have been saved for WrestleMania because if they're going to do Roman and Lesnar 2 in New Orleans, what do you do with John Cena? They've already wasted dream matches with Nakamura and now almost Samoa Joe and now Roman Reigns. Literally, what else is it for this guy to do? Face Braun Strowman and beat him clean? Been there, done that. I mean, not the feud, but I'm sure, go past, go to the last few WrestleManias. I know John Cena said on Monday, dude, I haven't headlined WrestleMania in 5 years. It's like, yeah, but you pretty much buried Bray Wyatt and Rusev in their respective Mania matches at 30 and 31, and neither guy has since recovered. So I'm not sure which is worse. But still, are we going to see John Cena, Randy Orton again at WrestleMania because they're running out of potential dream matches for him? Cena's got a few years left in him. So unless he's retiring at WrestleMania, I don't know why they're doing so many dream matches and throwing them away on TV in random B-level pay-per-views. I just don't get it. Their next question, what's happening with the Raw Women's Division? Alexa Bliss is great, but it doesn't do much for the babyface side when she can decisively beat everyone clean. Sasha Banks is a glorified choke artist, and she's supposed to be the biggest star in there. I don't know either. I mean, they've had good matches. I like Banks and Bliss on Monday's Raw in the main event. But Sasha Banks is a fucking loser. How many times have I said it? If you lose, you're a loser. You're a fucking loser. Sasha Banks loses more than anyone. And it's hard to believe that she was undefeated for almost a year when she first showed up in WWE. She debuted in the summer of 2015. She literally had not been pinned or submitted for a year until she dropped the championship to Charlotte at the following year's SummerSlam. That's crazy. They would never do that today with someone like Sasha Banks. She's won the belt 4 times, has never had a single successful title defense. That is pathetic. That is absolutely pathetic. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, they have Bayley, but she's hurt. It's not like they were booking her brilliantly anyway. They pretty much, bungled Bayley's push. So, Bayley doesn't really count. They have Asuka coming up to Raw soon, reportedly, which I pray for Asuka. I really hope they don't ruin her the same way they have with Sasha and Bayley. I think ruin's a strong word, but they have not been handled the way that they should be. Paige might be coming back soon. Emma, they fucking ruined. They gave her new music, which is terrible. They are just going out of their way to make Emma look bad. Mickie James has never meant less. Nia Jax is not ready for any sort of spotlight. And she's had some good matches, but she's fucking reckless in the ring. She's just not good yet. She's not there yet. And I think pushing her to the main roster as soon as they did last year was not the best idea. But anyway, yeah, with Alexa Bliss and I don't know. I mean, the Raw Women's Division, they have the talent. I mean, you would think on paper, like, holy shit, this division's stacked. When you have Emma, Alexa Bliss, Sasha Banks, Bayley, and all these other women, Mickie James. But they're not using any of them the way they should be. And therefore, no one really means anything except for Alexa Bliss, who's been booked very, very well. She comes off great in the microphone. She's had good matches for the most part. But just the 50-50 booking and Sasha looking like a loser, it just doesn't do anyone any favors, especially Sasha. Like that just... I mean, it's great that Bliss is champion. I love Alexa Bliss, don't get me wrong, but Sasha is a fucking loser. She's a loser. So with 4 title wins and losing in her first title defense every single time does not exactly bode well for her immediate future in the company, which is not good. Elena the Y from YouTube. I didn't like the Roman Reigns John Cena no fourth wall promo. I never liked these work shoot promos to begin with. I don't care if it's 1997, 2011, or 2017. I just don't like these. Everything on this fake wrestling show is fake, but this part is real promos. Then again, it's a feud between 2 polarizing guys, so maybe they needed it. I don't know anymore. It was one thing when CM Punk did it against Triple H 6 years ago, but now it just reeks of when creative has no good ideas and has to confront how terrible they've been lately. That's an excellent point. And I will say this, not that they needed to go there with the stuff they said on Monday. I thought it was a fantastic segment. I thought Cena owned Roman Reigns in that exchange there, that war of the words. But yeah, I think you make a great point that it really points out that they need to go there in order to have a great promo. Like, I mean, Cena's a great promo anyway, and Roman's getting there. He's not great. He's not even that good yet. But the fact they needed to go there, which I don't know if they needed to, but I think it helped, because people have been saying those things about their characters for years. It was all scripted, too. I think Dave Meltzer said on a show on Monday night. It wasn't like shooting from the hip like the YouTube the YouTube video title says, like they were shooting on each other. I think they actually used the word shooting from the hip, which is funny, like shooting. I'm sure they did that intentionally, but they weren't actually shooting on each other. I'm sure there was absolutely truth to what a lot of what they were saying, but it was all scripted. Not that it made it any less great. But not only was what they said like true for the most part, but the delivery I think was what I really liked about it. When Cena's in serious mode, the guy is fucking money. And I think this was one of those times. So I do understand what you're saying, that like everything else in the show is fake, but let's just start bringing up like I don't want to be hypocritical and saying I loved it here, but I hated it in TNA. Like I would hate in TNA years ago when like Sting would say the words "mark" and doing the job and shit like that, like on TV in his promos. Like, what the fuck are you doing? And I didn't really like it when they did it on Monday. Like, they don't actually have to use the words turn heel. Like, I know John Cena did it in his promos with CM Punk many years ago. Like, it was okay in 2011. 2017, I think it's time to move past that. There are other ways of having a great promo than just bringing up the insider terms like jobbing and burying and stuff like that. I think there's other ways to say that, but without saying the words shovel or bury. I thought it was a great segment. Like I said, I still enjoy it. I understand where you're coming from, but yeah, there are other ways of having great promos like that, showing the same intensity without going to, we're shooting, we're breaking the fourth wall here, it's all real, but everything else is fake. You make a great point. You absolutely make a great point. Their second question, what's up with Jim Ross lately? His commentary in the Mae Young Classic wasn't as bad as when he did the New Japan Pro Wrestling USG1 special. That was atrocious. But it was still pretty weak. The worst part was during the Serena Deeb versus Vanessa Bourne match when he called Vanessa Bourne Samoan drop a fall-away slam. It's the most common move by Samoans. How do you get that wrong? He never even corrected himself. Yeah, the commentary, I was literally just talking about this with, I got to give him a shout-out, at Rusty Rages on Twitter. We were just talking about this on Twitter a few days ago, that Jim Ross, it's not that... he cited the reason that maybe it was because his wife passed away and he's still kind of recovering from it and he's not yet 100% like in terms of his commentary skills. But I really don't think that's it. I know he hasn't called the full show yet. Like, he sucked in Japan. You're absolutely right. I love Jim Ross. The guy's a godsend, one of the greatest commentators of all time. But even the greatest commentators can have a bad night. And those that New Japan commentary work was not good at all. Like you said, that was fucking terrible. And his partner was no better. But yeah. So, but he's called some matches since then. Like he called the takeover match between I think Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne. That the best match in my opinion of 2017 to date in WWE. He called that match. He called the Itami and Black match. And both matches he added a lot to. I thought he was really, really good. But it's not that he can't call full shows, because he called that like one-off UK special they did on the network earlier this year, back in the month of May. And I thought he was great. Him and Nigel have great chemistry. So I think with the Mae Young Classic, he just was not good. What scares me is that they said they retaped a lot of their commentary work, and it still sucks. So if this is the second go-around, the second time around they've taped that stuff, I can only imagine how bad it was the first time. He's just not on point with his commentary work in the Mae Young Classic. Maybe he'll get better in the second round. Maybe, he will, when they're live, he's going to be a lot better. I'm not exactly sure. It just felt like they were reading off cue cards. And the fact that him and Lita have no chemistry doesn't help either. Lita's not good. Lita's beautiful. She's great. She's a legendary wrestler. She was never great in the panels, like the WWE pre-shows, the WWE Network pre-shows and shit. She sucks as a commentator. She has just very awkward timing. She's just not all that good. She doesn't really know what she's talking about. She comes across as very awkward. So, yeah, just not a fan of Lita on commentary. I'm sure that's not. I'm sure that's a large reason as to why Jim Ross has not been clicking lately. I mean, it's cool they have a woman on the booth. I'm sure, like, people have been saying, oh, they should have gotten Renee Young. Like, I get why they got Lita. Like, she was a good get for the show, but she's just not a good commentator. So, hopefully we don't see her back behind the booth at any point soon. I thought, Daniel Bryan and Mauro Ranallo for last year's Cruiserweight Classic, and even Jim Ross, or not even Jim Ross, it was Michael Cole and Nigel, I thought were great for the UK special, the UK tourney earlier this year. They were a great duo as well. But, yeah, no, they aren't even close to being as good as Daniel Bryan and Mauro were for the CWC last year. That was some terrific commentary work from those two last summer. Their third question from Elena, her third question is, does it make sense that Jinder Mahal's top two challengers are a guy he's already beaten once and a guy he's already beaten 3 times before that? You know what? You scared me with that question because I completely forgot. I was so hung up on the fact like Nakamura Orton's happening for the first time ever next week, that I completely forgot that if Orton wins, he's facing Jinder again. I completely forgot about that because I try to push those series of matches in the back of my mind, if not completely forget them altogether, because that feud was terrible. The matches weren't good at all. One match, the Money in the Bank match was decent. I thought it was entertaining to an extent. The rest of the matches were pretty terrible, and the feud sucked. But I'm sure Nakamura's going over. We're going to get Nakamura Mahal 2 inside Hell in the Cell. Or they're going to do it on SmackDown, and then they'll set up the Hell in a Cell match saying the Singh brothers can't interfere, all this other shit. No, yeah, it doesn't really make sense that he's already beaten both these guys, but I'm glad they're doing the number one contenders match, as opposed to giving Nakamura just another title shot. I know he was kind of screwed out of the title at SummerSlam, but he still lost clean, relatively. Like, he was still pinned. So I'm glad they're doing the number one contenders match, and they're not just, giving him another title shot or doing a fatal 4-way for no reason. Like, at least people are earning their opportunities, but yeah, it does make very little sense that he's already beaten the guy, and even Orton too. Like, why the fuck is he getting another shot? Like, I know Kevin Owens had his thing where if he lost to AJ on SmackDown last week, he would never be able to get another title shot against AJ for the belt. Why wasn't Orton, why wasn't the same thing done with Orton when he lost to Mahal at Battleground or whatever it was? That when he lost that match, you can never again get another title shot as long as Mahal is champion. That should have been the stipulation, because I do not want to see those guys against each other in any sort of scenario ever again. I would be content if we never saw another Mahal-Orton match. I'd be good for life if we never saw that again. Brandon A is back with a question here, or kind of a comment, question, whatever, from YouTube. Glad to see you back, Brandon, but his question was, or comment rather, hey, I know I haven't sent in a question in a while. I just want to give an update real quick. I recently just moved and have been really busy, which has made me forget to write in questions each week. However, I have done 2 pretty cool things since last sending in questions. 1, I'm not finished, but I have been fantasy booking my own version of 3 WWE G1 climaxes. 1 with Raw and SmackDown men, 1 with the women, NXT in the main roster, and 1 with NXT guys. The other thing I finally got to go to is my first WWE show ever. It was the August 1st edition of SmackDown Live with John Cena versus Nakamura as the main event, If you go back and watch the video, you can actually see me. I'm sitting right next to the entrance ramp on the hard cam, sitting towards the back. I'll be the rather large black guy wearing the Shinsuke Nakamura shirt. I am really prominent during the Usos promo. Anyway, I've still been listening each week, so I just want to say keep up the good work, and thanks for persevering through being sick and your computer crashing, which sucked last week. That was awful. I literally recorded, for those of you that missed it, I recorded 30 minutes of this show before it didn't save. I was so mad. That's partly why the show sucked last week, too. Anyway, he said, take care, and maybe I'll come up with another interesting question for next week. I seriously got nothing right now, LOL. Glad to see you back, Brendan. I hope you enjoyed that SmackDown. I'm pretty sure... Was it the August 21st, the August 1st show? Was it really? With Cena and Nakamura? I thought that was like the... Oh, no, you're right. Yeah, that was a really good show. That was the show with, like you said, Cena and Nakamura, the Usos promo. Wasn't that the show with Rusev and Gable, too, I'm pretty sure? I think it was. That was a great match, too. I think you also saw Cena and Nakamura, but also Styles and Owens, which was one of their better matches as of late. Not their best, but one of the best. So yeah, you saw a pretty good show. I went back and watched the promo that you're talking about, the Usos promo. I just typed in the Usos promo they had on that show. If you're referring to, I'm sure there's not many people in the crowd. You said the rather large black guy wearing the Shinsuke Nakamura shirt. That pretty much narrowed it down. If you're the guy when the Usos come out on the stage and they're talking and you see you and you're the one with the phone recording them, yes, I saw you. That's pretty fucking cool. I've been close at a WWE show a few times, like very few times, but I think I've ended up on TV for like literally 2 seconds, and you can barely see me. So that's a pretty prominent position to be on TV. That's pretty cool. I can't say I've ever been that focused in on TV, so the fact that you were is awesome. Looking forward to your next question, though, next week. Jeremy B's got 2 questions here from Facebook. Do you think it would be better to have Lana paired with Jazzy on SmackDown as opposed to Tamina instead of Tamina? So when he says Jazzy, he means Jazzy Gabert, I think is how you say your last name. She was the woman who lost to Abby Leith in the main event of the first episode of the Mae Young Classic. She really surprised me. I thought because of her size and the way she came across, like she has no idea what she's doing. She has no experience. She's not going to be good. That Abby Leith match against Jazzy was really fucking good. Like one of the better matches of the entire tournament to date. I thought they really worked a great match with Leith as the underdog and Jazzy as the dominant heel. People were popping for her offense. She really dominated Abby throughout. I thought that was a really, really fun match. Jazzy is infinitely better. Again, I don't know how long she's been doing this. I wasn't really paying attention during her video package and getting to know her profile. But she is infinitely better than Tamina. Holy shit, Tamina sucks. Like, how many times have I said that here on the show in recent months? Holy shit, Tamina is fucking terrible. That match last night was pure proof that Tamina does not belong on TV. It made me long for that year-long period between last year and this past April where Tamina was not on TV. She had a 60-minute squash match on Tuesday night, last night, and she fucking blew out the joint, and I don't mean that in a good way, in a bad way, in a negative way. The match sucked. Like, how do you suck so bad in the span of 10 or 60 seconds? Like, how does that even happen? How is that even possible? Like, that's almost amazing. That's an almost amazing feat that she was able to accomplish that. Suck so bad in such a short span of time. That's almost really a new record, I would say. But yeah, I think anyone would be better off with Lana than Tamina. Tamina's just not good. And Lana's not that good to begin with either. I don't know why they split her off from Rusev, because it's not like her single solo career, blew up and took off. She's been floundering as well. She's a fucking loser too. So yeah, Lana and Jazzy would be much better off. They also have the European thing going for them too. I mean, I know Lana's from like Russia, and I don't know where Jazzy's from. I think Germany or something. I don't know, but I think it'd be a better fit because Tamina's just terrible, and Jazzy is a great presence about her. I don't know if she's signed or not. I know she did like a video on the WWE YouTube channel saying that she'd be back. I don't know if she was just saying that, if there's any plans to bring her back. I mean, she'd probably have to go through NXT first, but she really impressed me with the outing that she had in the Mae Young Classic. She is, I mean, anyone's better than Tamina at this point, but I think Jazzy and Lana would be a great pairing after all, like you said. His second question, do you think Shinsuke Nakamura will win the title at Hell in a Cell and Jinder Mahal then turns on the Singh brothers? I hope not. I mean, I could see a scenario where Jinder is helped by the Singh brothers to help him retain the championship again, like when Owens won or retained his title against Seth Rollins last year after Jericho interfered, despite the fact it's a fucking Hell in a Cell match and you're not supposed to have people interfere. That would be really, really dumb. I don't think they're going that way, though. I think they will have Nakamura win the championship there at Hell in a Cell. I would not have him turn on the Singh brothers. I know the Singh brothers they're great and they're awesome. They could be a great tag team on their own. But that's the only thing that Jinder has going for him. Like, he's got a cool theme song. He's got a good presence about him. But a major reason as to why he looks like a star is because he has the Singh brothers around him. And the only real redeeming part of Jinder's matches, including the matches at Money in the Bank and Backlash and Battleground against Orton, was because of the Singh brothers and the fucking crazy bumps they took. Without them, those matches would suck even worse. They were already bad. But without them, they're 10 times worse. So, no, I would not do that. I would not have him turn on the Singhs. Unless you're going to demote Jinder to, like, undercard territory, I would not have him split from the Singhs, because the Singh brothers are, like, the best part about his act. And without them, he's even worse off than he is right now. Moving down to the Twitter questions. At E13A, how do you feel about the AAA Triple Mania 25 incident with Sexy Star? I made my quick thoughts about this on Twitter when someone asked me about it a couple days ago. Sexy Star is a piece of shit. I mean, that kind of goes without saying. For those of you that aren't aware, in case you've been living under a rock the past couple of days, so Sexy Star, who's a Lucha Underground star, or used to be or something, I think she left and she came back. I've never been the biggest Sexy Star fan to begin with. It had nothing to do with her as a person. I don't know her as a person, never met her, don't know too much about her beyond what we saw on Sunday at the show or Saturday night, whatever. As a wrestler, I've never really liked her. Never really impressed me. She's just not good. And it's not an intergender thing either. Because Ivelisse is fucking great. Katrina's great as a character. Taya Valkyrie is awesome, who I know has problems of her own with Sexy Star. They have a lot of great women's talent in Lucha. Sexy Star, though, is just not believable almost whatsoever. She's just not that good at all. But anyway, so not only is she not good, but she's also now a piece of shit. So she had a match, I think a triple threat match with Rosemary from TNA and someone else. And I think she had issues with the other person in the match. So she tapped out Rosemary with an armbar, but she, like, shot on her, which means, like, she legitimately put her in an armbar and almost broke her. I think she did break her arm. Rosemary said in a statement on Twitter that the injuries were not as bad as people were making them out to be, but it's still, I mean, she still got hurt. And she was pretty pissed off about it, as she should have been. That's fucking stupid. You just don't do that. You don't take advantage of people and situations like that, especially in pro wrestling. Like, it rarely ever happens, but you just don't do that. You don't go into business for yourself. Fuck you. Fuck you, Sexy Star. Thank God everyone's coming to Rosemary's defense. People from GFW, where Rosemary is from. People from all over the wrestling world. And even WWE stars, too. Jericho, I just finished his podcast this morning. He said something about it, too. So that says something. That even he heard about it and said something about it, too. So, fuck you, Sexy Star. You're a piece of shit. And she should be banned from AAA. And some action has to be taken because she's a fucking piece of shit. I already heard she was a piece of shit after the whole thing with Taya, and they stripped her of the championship after something happened involving Sexy Star or with Taya and those two. I don't know. So she already had heat on her then, but this pretty much solidified her as a piece of shit. So fuck you. I hope you're banned from AAA and every other wrestling company. And even Road Dogg said something too. He's like, I don't want her anywhere near me. So I'm sure Vince would hire her anyway, but I'm just kidding. I'm sure she'll never be hired, nor should she. Not only is she a piece of shit, but she sucks too, so I'm sure that just kind of adds on top of that. His next question, what do you know about SmackDown in 2004 and how it compares to SmackDown in 2017? Well, two similarities I see off the top of my head was that SmackDown was amazing in 02 and 03, and really 04 kind of, I don't want to say fell off a cliff, it just wasn't as good. And it's kind of the case with SmackDown right now. Look, you even said it yourself, Emmanuel, last week that, like, what happened to SmackDown in 2017 compared to what happened, where it was a year ago. SmackDown was killing it in 2016. Coming into the new year, at least after WrestleMania, that really hasn't been as must-see as it once was. So that's one similarity there. And, of course, two, who's on top? I mean, JBL, he wasn't having amazing matches, but at least he fit the role as a champion, and he was holding his own, and he kind of came into his own as a main event star. Jinder is just not doing it for me. He's kind of the same thing where they kind of gave him the championship in the spring because they had no other top heels. Although they do. They have fucking Kevin Owens, they have Rusev, they have a lot of great guys on that roster. So why Jinder, I have no idea. Why AJ Styles is the mid-card champion and Jinder is the world champion, I'll never know. Other than the fact they want to boost their Indian market or whatever. But still, that's pretty ridiculous. So that's a huge similarity right there. The instant push of JBL and Jinder Mahal overnight. That's a big similarity. Beyond that, I'm not really sure. But the tag team division now is a lot better than it was, I think, in 04. I would say anyway. I mean, we don't have a lot of great tag teams, but New Day and Usos have been killing it every single week. They've been having a great feud over the tag titles. The women's division is infinitely better. We're not getting Dawn Marie and Tori Wilson every week. Now we're getting actual matches, even though the division is not as good as it once was currently on SmackDown, but it's still way better off than what it was 13 years ago. The Cruiserweights were a part of SmackDown at that point. We don't have them on SmackDown. Now they're on Raw. But I would say the fact that it's kind of the decline in quality and also who's on top in terms of who's WWE champion is kind of similar about SmackDown between those 2 years, in 2004 and 2017. And his third question here, how do you feel about the bomb format, complete round released in one burst, of the Mae Young Classic? So basically the Netflix style dropping of round one of the Mae Young Classic. I think it's something different. I think it's cool. I would prefer they have it like every single week. I think it's a lot easier to track. Like, for me, like, I know that's what Netflix does. I'm not a big Netflix guy. I'll watch stuff on Netflix. I share my Netflix. I share my girlfriend's account. She shares it with me, so I don't actually have my own Netflix account. But just the reason why I don't, like, the thing with this is that my friend told me about the show Stranger Things. And I probably would watch the show if it aired every single week. Now, that's not necessarily true because I have to find time to watch the shows. Like, I don't even watch Walking Dead, and that airs every single week on a regular format. I mean, when it's on and not in its off season, you know what I mean? But I feel like I'm more inclined to watch a show if it's airing every single week at a certain time. Like, when Lucha airs at a certain time every week, I watch it and I review it, and if I can't watch it live, I watch it immediately after, if not the next day. Whereas with a show like Stranger Things, or even Glow took me a few weeks to watch because I would watch the first few episodes and I couldn't sit there and watch every episode at once. I just didn't have the time. And I really just kind of put it off until I binge watched the last like 4 or 5 episodes all at once about a month ago. So for me, I like it better when a show airs weekly. But I guess they found that the numbers were going down when they did that with the CWC last year. Like, they were gradually going down with each new episode every Wednesday. That's why they did this format, which they've done before with shows like Holy Foley, which was fucking terrible, but they did it with that show. They did it with Swerved a few years ago, I think about a year ago, season 2 anyway. So it's not the first time they've done it. I don't know if it worked for those shows. I mean, those shows weren't that great anyway. Swerved I thought was funny. Holy Foley was terrible. The Mae Young Classic, the format, I won't say too much about the actual show itself until a little bit later on, but I think it's different. It's cool. We'll see if it works and who's watching it and when and how many people are watching and stuff like that. So I guess we'll find out once it's all over and done with. I think it just feels way too rushed. I mean, I was able to find time on Monday because now I have classes on Monday and Tuesday. So I have time before I have to go to class around 4 or 5 on Monday. So that being said, I was able to watch all 4 episodes at once, review them. So if you want to check out my thoughts on the first 4 episodes, they're already up on nextdaywrestling.net. And but beyond that, like, if it aired any other day of the week, I might not have that same opportunity to do that. So I just kind of lucked out in that respect. But it's different. I kind of like it. It helps me, like, I can fast forward through entrances and video packages as opposed to if it was airing weekly and I watched it live. But we'll see. I just feel like it's a little rushed because the first 4 episodes are up this week, next 4 episodes the week after that, and then the finals like 2 weeks after that. The Cruiserweight Classic at least had a steady build up to the finals, which is why it was so great. So we'll see how it plays out. It might be a little rushed, but I'm liking the format so far. The show's been pretty good, but I'll get to that in a little bit. At Scarlet One, our final 4 questions here, or 5 questions, I guess. First one, rank from worst to best: SummerSlam 1997, 2007, and 2017. I know you did the 10-year intervals there, but it's interesting you say that because all 3 shows weren't like amazing. First and foremost, this might surprise you, but I'm going to put for the best 1997. I remember really liking that show when I watched it about like a year or 2 ago, and I reviewed it for WrestleRant. You can listen to my review. It's up here in the channel if you go back far enough in WrestleRant, or you just type in YouTube like WrestleRant SummerSlam 1997 review. I'm sure it's going to come up. But I remember really liking that show. At least I know that was the show that Steve Austin broke his neck in, but I think that match was pretty good before it abruptly ended. Mankind and Triple H, the Hunter Hearst Helmsley steel cage match was really, really good. And the main event was great too, with Bret Hart and The Undertaker with Shawn Michaels as a special guest referee. That was a great match too, so I'm going to put that one as the best. 2017 after that, 2007, I watched that show too. That show was so fucking dead. There was literally nothing going on with 2007. Cena and Orton was good. Batista and Khali was a train wreck. Let's pull up the card real quick. I looked it up right before I started recording this video. Let's see. SummerSlam 2007. Let's go to Wikipedia. I just remember looking at the card like, what the fuck is this? No, I don't want to donate $3 to Wikipedia. Don't bother me. Let's see. Cena and Orton, that was good. It wasn't great. It was a good match. Batista, Khali, total train wreck. Morrison and Miz sucked. Triple H and King Booker was not all that entertaining at all. Pretty much a glorified squash match for Triple H. Beth Phoenix won a battle royal with the women. Throwaway. No pun intended. Rey Mysterio and Chavo, I remember it being a good match. Umaga, Carlito, and Kennedy was good, I guess. Kane and Finlay was all right. That show was a dead show. Not even that it was bad. It was just a really dull show. And 17 was not good, or 2017 was not great either. I'm not saying this past year's installment of SummerSlam was great, but at least it had a few really, really good matches. The 07 installment did not have that. This year, at least we had that outstanding main event, in the 2 tag title matches. And also Styles and Owens said that was pretty good. And the Sasha Banks, Alexa Bliss match I thought was also good. But beyond that, the show was not that good really at all. But at least it had more better, good, great matches than 07 did. 07 was, on paper, a pretty lousy show. Best and worst of the Mae Young Classic. I've been liking almost all of the matches so far. There really hasn't been one match. The only match that stood out to me as being bad was the Rachel Evers and Marty Bell match. Now, I wasn't a fan of Marty Bell and TNA. She's just not good. She sucks. I don't know why she was brought in for this tournament. I feel like Deonna Purrazzo was not included. Maybe there's other, circumstances surrounding that. I know she was there. She worked a dark match at the show. So she was there. She's not in the tournament, though. Why she's not in it, but Marty Bell was, I have no idea. I know Marty Bell's recognized from TNA, but she fucking sucks. And Rachel Evers is good, but she had a pretty poor performance in this match as well. But beyond that, every other match is pretty good. The only other part about the Mae Young Classic I didn't like was the commentary, like I said earlier. Jim Ross and Lita were just not on point here. Jim Ross is not clicking the way I thought he would at this tournament. Maybe, again, like I said earlier, maybe he'll get better in the second round or the next batch of episodes and then the finals in a few weeks. And then Lita's just not good. Lita's just not good at all on commentary. But the best, all the main event matches on every single episode, all 4 episodes had great main events. Like I said earlier, Jazzy Gabert, if that's how you pronounce her last name, versus Abby Leith was awesome. Maya Yim versus, I think it was Sarah Logan. Really, really good match. What was the other one? The last main event with Kairi Sane versus Tessa Blanchard was also really, really, really good. Probably the best of the bunch. And also the other one was Piper Niven versus... God, who was it? She beat... I think Santana Garrett, I want to say. I think it was Santana Garrett, and they had a great match, too. So yeah, the best is definitely all the main events. Other the main events on all 4 episodes were really, really good. And I think the best of the bunch might have been Zane and Blanchard, if not Niven and Garrett. But also Leith and Gabert and Yim and Logan were also really, really good. So I'm looking forward to seeing it. And the matches are only going to get better. Now that we've kind of weeded out the weak links in the tournament, they're only going to get better going forward. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the next batch of episodes brings. Next question from @Scarlet1. Did you hear Nikki Bella's claim of Total Divas being responsible for the women's revolution? I did hear that. I did see that. It's not true. I know Solomonster did a big response to this on his podcast, so I don't want to repeat his thoughts exactly, but I was thinking the exact same thing that he did. That Nikki Bella does, not her specifically, but the show Total Divas does deserve some credit for, they get too much credit for the women's revolution, because all they ever say is that, we started the women's revolution. Emma's like, that's her character. Like, I started the women's revolution. She kind of did with Paige and NXT, but anyway. Total Divas absolutely has brought in a bunch of new fans of the WWE. There's no denying that. I know a lot of people, you'd be surprised, I know a bunch of people that literally only watch Total Divas, and they've either followed WWE loosely, or have gotten to WWE completely, or at least know of the storylines in WWE through Total Divas. So yeah, Total Divas has brought in new fans. It's expanded the awareness of the WWE and at least the women's division. But you don't see many matches on Total Divas, so that didn't really help the division. It gave them more stories. If anything, again, Total Divas brought in new fans, but it didn't start in the women's revolution. It absolutely did not. Absolutely not. If anything, it set the division back about a few years. Because when we got the inception of Total Divas, but first of all, by that point, AJ Lee was already a star in the show. She had been one of the most prominently featured women on that show for the first time in many, 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 many years. In 2012, as the GM and the stuff with Daniel Bryan and CM Punk and Kane, she was already, if anyone deserves credit for the women's revolution, along with Charlotte, Becky, and Bayley, which I'll get to in a second, and Sasha, not really Bayley, she came in a little bit later, but it's AJ Lee for what she did 5 years ago in 2012 and really breaking that ceiling. And she wasn't your typical big boobs McGee, blonde bombshell. She's this girl they never had any plans for coming out of NXT that got herself over with this crazy character. And she deserves a lot of the credit for instilling new interest into the division. Now, again, when AJ Lee was on top in 2012, she wasn't going for the championship. She actually didn't win the title until June of 2013. In her long title reign, she had some good matches, but it was around the time that, her and Kayla had some great matches. You look back at them now, they're like, oh, they weren't that great compared to what we see today, which is true. But at that time, AJ Lee and Kayla was one of the best women's matches I had seen in years, if not ever, in my years, by that point, 5 years as a wrestling fan. They had some great fucking matches. And then after that feud ended, they had Total Divas debut, and they started doing the Total Divas versus the the Total Divas versus what? The non-Total Divas, or something like that. And it was awful. Fucking terrible. Need I remind you of the 14-woman tag team match at Survivor Series that year with the Ring Around the Rosie with all the women like running around, and oh my god, that was atrocious. And that was all because of the show. Again, Nikki Bella and Brie have gotten a lot better in the twilight of their careers as women's wrestlers, but they are not responsible for the women's revolution. Again, it kind of started with AJ Lee back in 2012, 2013, but what really solidified it was bringing up Charlotte, Sasha, and Becky in the summer of 2015, and not the fucking 3-team tag team matches. That was pure garbage. That shit was awful. What really started it was when we got individual stories with the women, when they turned Charlotte heel and made Sasha babyface and gave Becky a story and made people care about her. The matches that Becky and Charlotte had, the matches that Charlotte and Sasha had last year, was really all that was responsible. The women's revolution can be traced back to them. When they debuted the term women's division for the Divas, or what was once the Divas, they brought back the term in women's wrestling, and they ditched the Divas title and they brought in the WWE Women's Championship. Who was in that match? Not Nikki Bella, not Brie Bella. It was Charlotte, Becky Lynch, and Sasha Banks at WrestleMania 32. So I can see what she means. Total Divas has... If she said Total Divas has brought in new awareness and new fans of WWE and specifically the women, that would be an accurate statement. But she's saying that they're completely responsible for the women's revolution, which is just not true. It's a silly thing to say. Final two questions here. Push, repackage, release. John Cena, Randy Orton, and Matt Hardy. That's a great one. This is going to sound ridiculous, but push John Cena, that's kind of like an oxymoron. I guess it's too obvious, but I would push Matt Hardy, but I feel like he would be better off repackaged as Broken Matt. I like Matt now. I think Matt's doing great work right now, but repackage him into Broken Matt and then push him, but repackage him first. Push Cena towards the main. I don't want to see him going for the championship, but that's the thing where I'm excuse me, I'm in a tough spot because I don't want to see Cena going for the title, but I also want to see Broken Matt Hardy. Either way, whether you're flip-flopping or not, you got to release Randy Orton. I'm sorry. I love Randy Orton. I wouldn't release him. Of these three, though, I would get rid of him because Orton has been so unmotivated in 2017. The matches he's had are just not good. No real good feuds. 2017 has not been a good year for Randy Orton. And the guy can still have great matches. He's still got a few years left in him. But what he's been bringing to the table in 2017 has just not been good. So of these three guys, I would get rid of him first. Repackage Matt in a Broken Matt or a Woken Matt, whatever. And then push Cena, maybe towards the main event, or do one more last title feud, maybe not win the championship, something along those lines. But yeah, I would push Cena, repackage Matt, and release Randy Orton. And a similar question, keep, revision, or keep, revise, whatever, or erase the post-Shield careers of Dean Ambrose, Seth Rollins, and Roman Reigns. Great question to end on here. Whew, this is tough. I think without a doubt, this one's obvious. I would keep Rollins' post-Shield career because I feel like of the three, he was perfectly booked. I mean, I know you could say, oh, they should have pulled the trigger on his babyface run earlier, which is true, but he's still pretty popular. He's still having great matches. He's doing fine right now. He's doing great right now with Dean Ambrose. But even the heel run and the time on top as WWE Champion and US Champion, all the other stuff in 2015 was great. The guy was perfectly booked from when the Shield broke up to now, for the most part. So I would keep Rollins' post-Shield career. This is where it gets tough, because the post-Shield careers have been pretty good for Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose, but they're not what they should have been. Like, Dean was super hot coming out of the Shield in 2014, but they really lost their way with him. Like, he kind of was really largely directionless for a long time in, like, late 2014, early 2015, before finally winning the belt in 2016. And then even then, he was directionless. They didn't really let him be the Dean Ambrose that he should have been. He wasn't really doing it as WWE Champion. Roman Reigns, they really fucked up with. And now Dean's, he gets some boos from time to time. Roman Reigns, it's just, there's no comparison. The guy gets booed every single night. So, this is tough. I would revise the Roman Reigns post-Shield push, his singles career post-Shield, because I think Roman's going to be a bigger player for the company than Dean Ambrose will be. So I'm going to erase Ambrose's post-Shield push. And I don't know if that means, like, release him. I would hate to do that because I love Dean Ambrose. But Roman Reigns is the guy they're building around. And they could have done a better job of that. That maybe they wouldn't be where they are right now if they didn't fuck him up by having him win the Rumble in 2015. At least in the fashion that he did. Or all the other stuff that he's been put through in the last 2.5, 3 years. So, absolutely, I would revise Randy Orton's post-Shield career, erase Ambrose's, and keep Seth Rollins's. So that does it, guys, for the episode 196 of #AskGSM. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. We'll be back next Wednesday with another all-new episode. Hopefully by that point I am 100%. Usually a cough, when I've had a cough in the past, it takes about, 3 weeks usually to get over. So, and I've had it for about 2 weeks at this point, almost exactly. So hopefully by next week I will be 100% and we can deliver another great episode of #AskGSM for episode 197. So before I let you go, guys, if you want to send in a question, be sure to tweet me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the #AskGSM. Find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Graham.GSM.Matthews. Leave a comment on the post I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. And drop a comment in this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. Be sure to like this video, comment, of course, with your question or otherwise. Share the video and subscribe to the channel. We're quickly approaching 1,400 subscribers, so I appreciate you guys for helping me reach this amazing milestone. And we're almost at, I think, 1 million views, too, which is pretty good. Like, overall views for the channel, which is awesome. So I can't wait to reach that milestone pretty soon as well. So anyway, guys, enjoy the rest of your week. I'm Graham GSM Matthews. Enjoy the month of September as it quickly approaches, and I'll catch your ass down the road.